Alex, how you doing, Mr. Cook?
Hello.
I'm a pretty recent listener to the show, and I agree with a lot of the ideas you have. My basic question is: these banks, they're pretty deep rooted. I mean, it seems like they have control of these governments, and they use this debt to control everything. Is there really any way that we can make them lose this power? I mean, aren't we...
We have beaten them 4 times. We have to educate the public about how this works. As things get worse and worse, the people that would only watch football before are now starting to listen, and we don't have a choice. And the states created the federal government. 30-plus states are moving to declare sovereignty, reform the union if they have to. You have to first believe they can be beaten to do it. Third world countries beat them all the time. Mr. Cook?
Every bank in the United States is chartered by a federal or a state government. Our system acknowledges at its deepest level that credit is a public utility, and it does derive from the will of the people and the consent of the governed. We have the constitutional right, and now we have to get the ability to take it back. It can be done. It belongs to us. It's been taken away from us. We have to take it back.
Yeah, I mean, we have the moral authority, sir. We've been robbed. We've been shanghaied. We've been hijacked. We've been bushwhacked. We've been bamboozled. We've been gang raped. I mean, whatever terms you want to use, they're the bad guys. It's this magician's illusion in their fancy suits and on TV. They're a pack of crooks. We need to get that popular rage of true populism going. Mr. Cook.
Now, back in October, when Paulson went to Congress with the first of the big bailout bills, and that bailout came about, by the way, because Europe refused to stop buying our toxic debt. So Paulson went to Congress, and you remember what happened. The very first time that went before the House of Representatives, the House voted it down. Now, if they had stood their ground and voted it down the next time, we might have a completely different situation.
But the bankers engaged in financial terrorism. They went on there and said, we're going to have a depression. And the stock market dropped, from 10,000 down to, 8,000 or whatever. And look, we gave into the terrorism. Did it help us, Mr. Cook?
Oh, it ruined us. That was the defining moment. And when John McCain came to Washington, he had the intent of supporting the congressmen who were against that legislation, but he too caved in. We heard this story last weekend up in New York at the Eastern Economic Association conference, but there was a time, there were a couple days there when the battle lines had been drawn, and if our people in Congress had stood their ground, we would have a far different situation today.
And in came the military option, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, they started telling people there were going to be terrorists in the streets.
And
martial law, all that.
Yeah, I mean, if that isn't terrorism, to have the Secretary of the Treasury and the head of the private Fed saying the president's going to declare martial law and do this anyway, they should have gone out and had a press conference and said we were just threatened by economic terrorists and started a House investigation to arrest those men. Instead, they put their tail between their legs, urinated on themselves.
All that came from the big banks.
I mean, folks,
driving that whole scenario.
We have offshore banks threatening martial law in America. I mean, this is outrageous, Mr. Cook.
That's correct. That is correct. It's the international banking system, and it's an interlocking system, and the center of it, is not even in the United States.
London.
It's spread all over the place, but it's an international system, and they're the ones who direct the Federal Reserve, and they're the ones who direct the Treasury policy. And right now, the whole objective of the Obama budget with the continued bailouts is to keep that system afloat.
Richard C. Cook's our guest. We're going to come back and take more calls from Mike, Zachary, and others. Kevin, who disagreed, would have been first, but he hung up. Richard C. Cook's our guest, an amazing researcher. He is one of the most accurate individuals breaking it down, probably the most accurate. He concurs with my analysis more than anybody else. I mean, because the banks do this over and over again throughout history. They brag about it. Of course it's all premeditated. They're behind it. All right, we are back live, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot to ask you during the break, Mr. Cook, because I want to go to all these calls. Can you stay 5 minutes with us into the next hour? Mr. Cook, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Can we keep you 5 minutes in the next hour?
Yeah, 5 minutes to work, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I meant to ask you that during the break and forgot to.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and go back to the callers here. And, folks, if you see me frothing and chomping at the bit, this is history. Are they going to bring in worldwide tyranny through the scam they've committed with all the money they've stolen? Or are we going to bring them to justice? And, Mr. Cook, doesn't it come down to just that?
Well, yes. I can give an example also of another thing that was said at this conference I just went to in New York last weekend. There was a economist from the University of Massachusetts there. His name was Thomas Ferguson, who'd been working with the banking committee on Capitol Hill when the October crisis occurred. And he pointed out that the Bush-Obama bank bailouts alone will cause a permanent addition of interest payments on the national debt of $100 billion a year forever. That means every American is going to pay during the course of his or her lifetime, on the average, $20,000 for this bank rescue, this one action of bailing out the banks. $20,000 in a lifetime.
And now they're telling us more and more of these.
Yeah, yeah. These are the decisions that are being made by our elected government today.
Unbelievable crime. Unbelievable. Just absolutely incredible. Let's go ahead and talk to Mike in Wisconsin. Mike, you're on the air with Richard C. Cook. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, Alex and Richard.
Yes, hello.
I'm a Prison Planet member, and I have the Obama Deception pre-ordered. I've been unemployed since September, and I was making like $18 an hour when I was let go. I'm right now collecting unemployment. I don't have a mortgage. I was foreclosed a couple years ago, so I'm renting. Should I take any kind of part-time job, full-time job, no matter what it pays right now, or should I kind of hold out for something that pays what I was, making when I was let go? Or right now my wife works, so we do have an income, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say this. Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Cook.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I can't tell any individual what to do. If I were in that position, I would certainly do my best to earn the money that I could, because you never know down the road if it's going to get any better. So I think a bird in the hand is better than nothing.
Yeah, look, you've already paid all this in taxes. It's all fiat made-up money to begin with. The illegal aliens are all, 2 or 3, 4 welfare checks apiece, milking it. Everything's going bankrupt. I would take that unemployment check. I mean, this is what I would do. And I would go out and mow lawns or, pick up cans or whatever on the side, because it's only going to be the underground economy that's going to let people survive. I would be making as much money as you can. I know people that are losing their jobs, or they get a new job and they're lazy and they drag around. Americans, a lot of them have gotten lazy and entitled. A lot of us are really hardworking. I don't want to simplify things. But I don't think people realize we're going into a long, sustained depression. I think all the evidence shows. So you better, especially people that have children are being lazy out there. You better be busting your butts to get in as best a position as you can, because it's only going to get worse, I'd say, for the next 5 years. Mr. Cook, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think that's a good suggestion, Alex. There's a lot of ways to earn money out there now that are available that we can, kind of do out of our wits, and sure, do it.
Absolutely. I mean, look. Get your hands legally on as much money as you can and start living more simply. I appreciate your call. 5 more minutes with Mr. Cook. We got State Representative joining us, declaring sovereignty. Stay with us. New Hampshire, Oklahoma, many others are on the verge of passing 10th Amendment declarations for no martial law, no gun confiscation, no forced conscription. 30-plus states are moving to do it. We'll be talking to some state reps coming up in this hour, and more news and your phone calls. Richard C. Cook, former White House analyst, NASA consultant, written for major publications out there like the Washington Post. He is our guest right now. We're taking a few final calls for him. Let's talk to Zachary, holding patiently from Hawaii. Zachary, you're on the air. Welcome.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Nice to talk to you again. I had a couple questions, and they were about gold and silver. I bought some gold and silver, and I was wondering about the amount stolen and hoarded throughout history, and then, like how it could be released in order to manipulate the market, like oil and Enron and diamonds and the housing market maybe. And then I was wondering, who would buy it? If everyone's being broke, if everyone's broke, who could buy it? I was just thinking that the consumption would be better.
There's plenty of people who have money to buy things, and the way it works is that they drive down the markets. They corner the market on these things, and they drive down the market price. And then when it's driven down, and all the people who are scared out of the market get out and sell their commodities, then the people with the money or with the credit, because they can still create money out of thin air, which they do and are doing, then they step in and they buy it up. You just have to watch these commodity markets very carefully and try to understand who is manipulating these markets. But there's always people with money who can create money out of nothing, who control the banking system still. I mean, there's still a world banking system out there who can create almost an infinite amount of money anytime they want to.
That's right, I agree.
People can come in and buy what they want when they want it.
Most analysts are saying that gold has been undervalued, so is silver, because the bankers for decades have been depressing it while they hoard it. So the globalists are obsessed with gold and silver, and they're the ones hoarding it.